Hello everyone, this is Diane Murray at Southern Art Gallery, and we are continuing our series on triads today with what's commonly called an old Masters Triad. And I believe this is the term that Nita Leland uses in her book. I'm not sure she uses these exact pigments, but she uses pigments close to this. These are pigments that have been around a very long time, and they are raw sienna, which is a PBR7. This is the Daniel Smith raw sienna. This is Indigo by Da Vinci. Theirs is a PB27, which is actually Prussian blue. I will not buy this again. I'll buy a different mixture of indigo that doesn't contain Prussian blue, because I'm not sure of the light fastness of Prussian blue. The red we're using is Indian red. You could use Terra Rosa or any PR101 that's on the red side, Venetian red, Indian red, any of those would work for this. So we're going to take our raw sienna, and I've already mixed it with the raw sienna, and I'm doing my typical thing where this is a darker value, this is a mid-tone, and this is the light value of the same color. So now we're going to take the raw sienna and we're going to take the indigo, mostly raw sienna. And I find that if I do it this way, I tend to get more variation in the samples. So if we mix mostly raw sienna, we're going to get something more on the brown side. The neutrals, it's not a very pretty color actually, but it shows you that's almost the color of sand when it dries light. So you can alter this mixture. You can add more, you can add less of the raw sienna and more of the indigo and get a much nicer gray tone. Let's add a little more of the sienna. And it's leaning a little bit more to the green and the gray side. That's a nice combination there. Okay, and if we take the raw sienna and we mix it with the Indian red, and I have noticed that the Indian red and the Terra Rosa have a really dramatic shift when they dry. It is much lighter, and I think because they're earth pigments, they tend to fade. I guess is the best way to describe it. It looks like they've faded, but I think it's just because they're earthy pigments. Let's add a little more raw sienna to that. Get something that's a little bit on the more orangey yellow side. Now that's a nice earthy orange there. And if we take the mostly the Indian red is also very opaque, but this particular Da Vinci Indian red is supposed to be not as opaque. Okay, so that's going to be right here, and that's just a darker, nice version of an earthy orange. And we'll watch these dry, and I think you're going to see what I'm talking about with the shift in those. It's important when you're mixing these colors to make sure your brush is clean, because I tend to use a mixing brush. It's this little Princeton, and I mix all my colors with it, so I have to be sure in between that they're clean. So now we're going to take the indigo and we're going to mix it with the Indian red, but mostly with the indigo. And that should make a lovely, lovely color. And it does, a deep, beautiful, dark. It's almost on the gray side, but a beautiful neutral there. Really, these colors don't tend to make a nice violet, but they make very nice neutrals. So now if we take the red and we mix the indigo, but mostly with the red, we should get more of a maroon color, something more on the brown side. Let's see what we get here. Okay, and we do. So it's a nice, soft combination of colors. These colors are perfect for if you're painting European scenes, or you're trying to reproduce an old master painting. So let's mix our neutral. So if we take all three and mix them together, we'll get a nice neutral. We should get a nice neutral. And depending on, yeah, that's very nice, almost black. Beautiful, beautiful neutral. Anytime you mix a yellow, a red, and a blue, you should be able to get a neutral tint. That's a very nice one. Okay. So now we will we'll do our mingling here. And this is the best way I've found to see what the colors will actually do on your paper, especially if you don't overmix them in your palette. Now this is the Indian red, and you see it does disperse, actually more than I expected. So let's take the indigo, if I can find it on my palette. Here. See what we get. I love these earthy combinations. They're just so pretty. Let's add a little more water in there. Get that moving. Great. See what happens when we mingle those. When you mingle the colors like this, it gives you more of a full range of what you can expect from these colors. The Indian red seems to disperse much easier than the indigo, this particular indigo. My favorite indigo is actually by Sienna. I think it's called Indigo Blue or Blue Indigo. It's really a lovely color. So you can see you can get earthy tones and gray neutrals with this combination, because this red leans more to the orange side, making it more of a complement to the blue. So you're going to get these nice neutrals in there. Very nice combination of colors there. You can see the color shift here that I was talking about with the Indian red. But you know, if you're looking for softness, particularly if you're painting buildings like in Venice or places like that where they have the terracotta buildings that are so soft, it's really helpful to have pigments like this, and to have pigments that do neutralize each other so beautifully. Okay, so we'll let that continue to work. And I do have my students mix different complements together, different reds and different different reds with different greens, and different oranges with different blues, and yellows with violets, just to see what kind of combinations they can come up with. Okay, we're mixing the Indian red with the raw sienna, and we'll see what we get. Neither one, that raw sienna does not want to move. So let's add some more water to that. Neither one of those is moving. Interesting. But you are getting that earthy orange. Let's add a little more of the Indian red in there. See if we can help it move along a little bit. A little more water there. There we go. It's reluctantly moving. And the last one that we're going to mingle will be the raw sienna and the indigo, which should be interesting. Indigo has a fairly strong color shift as well when it dries. These earth pigments tend to do that. They tend to, in my experience, they seem to, yeah, now it's going. They seem to dry much softer, almost like a velvet kind of touch, which can be really nice, depending on what you're painting, of course. So you see the indigo's overpowering the raw sienna, which is a very soft, delicate color. So let's drop more of that in there. And you know, when you're mixing these colors, it's not a 50-50 mix. Most of the time, you have to adjust the mixes based on the intensity and the tinting strength of and the saturation of the different pigments that you're mixing. Now we're getting kind of a dirty green. Might be a nice shadow color actually. I'm liking the granulation that's happening in here with the raw sienna and the and this is inexpensive Strathmore paper, by the way. This is Strathmore 400. And so it's not the best watercolor paper, but I find that it works for my students to practice on. So these workbooks are just for their benefit, for them to practice mixing and different techniques. Now we're getting kind of a nice earthy, it's actually a very lovely earthy green, if you notice that. So there you have it. There's the old Masters Triad palette, and I hope you found this helpful and you will subscribe to our channel. It really does help our channel grow, and thank you to my patrons for all your support, and we will see you with the next triad. Thank you for watching.